into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
All right, greetings and salutations and what's up, fucker. Hello. Sit down, shut the fuck up, and put the volume up. It's the podcast that you love to listen to.
Damn.
Pod
Authoritative.
Damn America. Yes, sit the fuck down.
Stick this in your ear, my good bitch.
Sit down. Ben Shapiro has a board. He's going to hit you with it. That'll be the topic we start the day with. But first, hello, I'm Jake Flores. Alex Patak is here.
I'm eager to discuss the board, Jake.
Anders Lee is here.
Anders Lee here in your eardrums.
Yeah.
Or near them.
We're like, yeah, we sound like Jurassic 5 or something today. In your eardrums.
Get on your hip-hop motorcycle. It's time for Poddamn America.
Ha-ha. Is that the guy with the deep voice?
Aha. Tuna.
Wow.
Tuna fish.
Walter Mondale. All right. Let's start with
They didn't really stand for much as a band except for liking London. That was kind of their big thing.
Yeah.
Wait, who? Block Party?
Jurassic 5?
Jurassic
Andrews, do you know
okay.
Jurassic 5?
Yeah. I'm familiar.
This seems extremely up your alley for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Because I'm a Jurassic period guy? That was my favorite period.
What? No one has a favorite period. You're
shut
weird.
up.
Oh, Cretaceous stand has long gone.
Well, Cretaceous is if you like desert shit, but Jurassic if you like some lush greenery, close to today, basically. With you want to see what dinosaurs were like in the closest way to today in terms of geology and shit like that.
Isn't
Jurassic
everything
is where
just
it's
simpler when everybody lived in the sea? That's my whole selling point. Why don't we just go back to that?
What was that period, Alex? What was your favorite?
Was it the Permian?
What did you say a minute ago?
at. I think
Cretaceous?
that was pre-Cretaceous,
Cretaceous.
if I'm not mistaken. I thought Cretaceous was sort of more desert-like. Or maybe that's Mesozoic.
What would
Never mind.
Cretaceous Park be like if they had made that movie instead? It would just be like,
It's-
oh, the microscopic organisms are everywhere. They're
Don't go in that pool! Do not go in the pool!
It would be much simpler to film. You know what? Dinotopia. That was what you're describing reminds you of Dinotopia. Those books were sick. I think they made a movie, but they should do an update.
They made a cartoon. I remember that.
Oh, it was a cartoon. Okay.
I used to watch it when I was a kid. It would
We're
be like,
talking so far out of school with these periods of history. I don't think any of
Well,
these
I
have
don't
been
know.
right.
I think that's what Brooklyn is going to be like, and or LA when it gets swallowed into the sea, and they bring back, genetically engineered dinosaurs. It's going to be a Dinotopia situation, and I'm looking forward to that.
the thing about Dinotopia is that I remember they would take like a Stegosaurus and then they would put like a mechanical like saddle on the thing, and then they would be using it
Right.
to like move shit around or farm or fight or have like guns on it and shit, which is cool. But it also calls into that question like, why have we never thought of? We have so many instances of guy riding a horse in all of our fantasy and fiction and reality. We've never seen a movie where a guy like rides a raptor, which would be fucking tight. Can you imagine just riding around the city on like a velociraptor?
Well, it's
That
like
would
the
be cool.
meme. You've
Is
seen
it?
the Abraham Lincoln riding
It's Bill
a
Clinton,
dino
yeah.
meme.
Oh no, I
They
didn't.
do them all. Anybody who's epic can ride one.
I've only seen Slick Willie. But yeah, that would be good. I mean, the problem with Dinotopia, and I guess this is why it's Utopia, is the dinosaurs are just into it. They, I guess, have been tamed or are just like a docile species.
They're just,
Anders arguing against dinosaur consent live on his reactionary radio podcast.
yeah. Yeah, they like it. They like being in the kitchen.
Yeah, no one's gonna like depict like dino slavery in a way that's realistic and then still enjoy their episode of the Flintstones where the toaster's acting up, so Fred just like whips it into submission and then they go back to making breakfast.
Well, you know what I never got about the Flintstones? It's such an elaborate system that they've worked out with rocks and dinosaurs that it's in many ways much more complicated than the internet. You know, like you would have to dedicate way more ingenuity to like create indoor plumbing out of a long-necked dinosaur than you would, you know, a cell phone or something like that. But I guess they don't need to, because birds will do that, because they are, yeah, I guess a docile species again. Where
Well, as a materialist, you have to recognize that we all work with the conditions at hand. And so if you don't have those technologies, but you do have a bird that you use it as a toilet and your whole family shits into the bird's mouth and the bird turns and goes, it's a living, that's what your society's going to look like. And it's not a moralistic judgment. You all just shit in a bird.
Yeah, but
I mean, who's to say that's not what things would have been like had humans and dinosaurs coexisted, right?
Who
Maybe
is
it would
to
not
say?
have been the Jurassic Park situation at all. Maybe they would have taken, you know, they would have been satisfied in their role as subservient to humans.
we would have
doubt it, but-
subjugated dinosaurs into a terrifying body horror, like H.R. Geiger type situation where they are literally all machinery. And you're saying they would have liked it, Anders. That's what you're saying. They would have loved
I'm
it.
saying we don't have enough information to suggest otherwise, to know otherwise.
No, there would have been a civil war over, like, one of the smart dinosaurs would have done Haiti shit and, like, overthrown his Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, well, that's the
His
other
head on
possibility,
a
is they would have
spike.
just eaten us. Like, there's no middle ground, right? It's either humans somehow managed to coax dinosaurs into obeying them, or we would have just gotten eaten, no human race.
There would also be
Papa
dinosaur.
Croc Duvalier, is that anything?
There would also have been Dinosaur John Brown, the one guy who's
Absolutely.
like, dinosaurs are people, but everyone thinks he's a lunatic, and he has
Right.
a huge beard.
Absolutely.
But I don't know how we would even. They would have had to like want to do it, because I don't know how humans would tame like an allosaur or a Tyrannosaurus or Stegosaurus.
Well, I hate to beat the negative one in the conversation, but I don't think it would have happened. I think that these little monkeys would have gotten their asses beat by these big, powerful lizards that now we know look like birds. And it would just be a nightmare of birds. It would be Attack on Titan, but for birds. But this
Yeah.
is all to say
Well,
that Ben has purchased a board at Home Depot, and he took a picture with the board.
what about reverse Flintstones, where the humans are slaves and the dinosaurs are the protagonists of the picture?
Interesting. What would they want us to do? Would they want us to just like use our abstract thinking skills and like design shit for them, or would we be doing manual labor?
I don't know. I'm thinking of this more as this is a propaganda film to explain to people why they shouldn't, you shouldn't use dinosaur labor in your home.
Right.
Look, this could be the other way around. You could be the toilet, and a brontosaurus could be taking a shit in your mouth.
Right.
Was that part of the Dinosaurs universe? Did you ever see the show Dinosaurs?
Yeah.
I don't think there were humans in that.
They didn't have human slaves.
They kind of
I don't
were
think so.
like human dinosaurs.
Right.
It was
there were-
unsettling because they would do the thing cartoons do where they wear some clothes, but not all of the clothes, but have these like large, actually filmed bodies where you're like, where is its where is it?
Yeah. I mean, I think in a way we're very lucky that humans did not coexist with dinosaurs, because then we would not exist. I think Alex is right
Absolutely.
about that.
I
Yeah.
say that every day.
Okay, and that's why we have wieners like Ben Shapiro holding his
Yes.
board. Let's talk about his board. It looked... The first thing I thought when I saw it was, this looks like when Andrew Yang is like, I love authentic pizza pie, and he's holding something that isn't an actual slice of pizza, because he's bad at New York. It was very...
Yeah, just to understand the post, so it's Ben Shapiro, and then he's saying what men be like, and he has a giant 2x4 in a plastic bag.
Right. And exactly one.
He has one big board to say, I went out to the board store to get my board. Looking good. The
Yeah.
wife will be happy with this.
If you've ever like built anything that requires an amount of wood to build something, you have to leave with it's in like a, you have to put it in the back of a truck. There's like a
Yeah.
lot. You need a lot of shit to build even a small thing. So what is he possibly? It's hilarious that he's like, aha, I'll fool these people into thinking I shop here all the time and I do this, and then he's carrying around a board like you would walk out of like Forever 21 with a new shirt or something.
Right.
That's not what that looks like.
Yeah, you don't put a board in a plastic bag. I'm sorry.
The most generous interpretation I can give him is he is leaving with one medium-sized board because he just needs raw material for his miniatures, and that's actually more than enough board
Like
to
he's
do what he set
whittling.
out to do.
He's whittling tiny Ben Shapiro's.
I don't know, he's whittling something racist in his house. He's putting together offensive Gundams made out of actual wood.
Maybe his next, because he's a fiction writer as well, so maybe his next manuscript is going to be written on wood.
See, there's something interesting. There's an idea. I don't want to say he's just buying wood to have wood. He's doing something with the wood.
He also kind of looked like he was holding like tablets, like he was going to read from the Bible, which seems to be
The Dead
His-
Sea Scrolls.
yeah.
I think he was day drunk off mimosas and was walking by Home Depot and wanted to get some wood to show off.
I got an idea.
You think that motherfucker drinks?
You have a photo. He cannot. I
There's
mean,
no way.
at his size, that's really dangerous to
I mean-
like imbibe at all.
One mimosa, I'm saying, probably, maybe one or two, put him on that level where he's like, I'm going to show off my, masculinity with my one board that
He
I'm
was
gonna
celebrating early because he thought Derek Chauvin was going to get off. He was like, I'll have one, and then I'll do something manly.
Yeah, I wonder if that's related because Don Lemon, as he's referred to on Fox News, Don Lemon, said that justice
French
was,
pundit Don Lemon.
he said that justice was served with the Chauvin conviction, and Ben Shapiro was like, "Well, would he be saying that if it was the other way around?" And no, he probably wouldn't be because that would definitely not be justice.
Yeah.
Because he killed somebody.
It was kind of a fascinating bad take because I think what he's implying is that you're a hypocrite if you call it justice when the justice system does one thing, but not
Right.
justice when it does the other thing, because I guess he's implying that the system is inherently objective no matter
Right.
what it does,
Yeah,
but that doesn't make any sense because it could do different things. But depending
And I want to
on-
know. Everyone celebrates when the fridge makes your food cold. But I want to know if the fridge makes something hot. We're not celebrating that. All of a sudden, I put my eggs in, and they're hot eggs.
Yeah. God damn, dude.
Let me look up. I'm sure he was very happy about or just felt, justice had been equally served when OJ got off.
Maybe that's why he bought the board, is to serve justice.
Yeah.
Like,
He's taking it to the streets.
have you ever been to a fancy restaurant where it's like, it's so fancy that they serve your food on just a plank of wood? And you're like, wow, this is so fancy. And then you realize, like, wait a minute, they tricked me. This actually sucks.
Right.
I got a splinter from my risotto.
Right, or it's kind of cafeteria style, and they, they give you a prison tray.
Yeah. You can go all the way back around with craft shit where you're actually selling people crap, and they're like, this is so cool that a restaurant would do this. Mm-hmm. That's how you
I
make
think
$1 million.
charcuterie boards are to blame for a lot of the wood culture in restaurants because they started it.
Oh, that's what he was doing. He
Yeah.
was making a charcuterie board.
Do you know where charcuterie comes from? I don't know if this is true. I read this in a Christopher Hitchens book a long time ago. But apparently, during the Spanish Inquisition, the reason that they came up with the idea of cooking and like preparing pork in a bunch of different ways is because like people were Jewish and they were pretending not to be. So if you served someone a bunch of like pork like that, and then they had to try it, and it's presented in all these different ways, they're trying to elicit the response where you're like, Oh, normal. I know pork. I eat this all the time.
Oh yes, on my board of meats. Yes, I love to have this when I
Yeah.
celebrate Christ at my house.
I don't know if that's true because it was in a stupid ass Christopher Hitchens book, but Jew detector. Pretty wild, huh?
Wow.
Okay.
Charcuterie boards, anti-Semitic.
Which is also weird that he would have a charcuterie board. What are you up to, Ben?
What are you doing over there?
That actually reminds me, I was a big ham sandwich kid growing up. And
Of course you were.
yeah. And I had a
It's
counselor.
all over your face.
It is, literally. I have a ham I mean, I lived in Virginia for the first 12 years of my life, so ham is everywhere. You put ham in cappuccinos, that's the stir stick they use. Ham state. And so I worked at a summer camp when I was like in my early teens, and it was a Jewish summer camp, and I brought a ham sandwich, and I had to like convince people it was chicken because you were not allowed to eat that sort of thing. And then they were concerned because it's like, that's pink chicken. Yes, it is. It's just smoked.
What the fuck? Wild ass shit are you talking about?
I'm trying to be
He was a ham sandwich kid.
a ham sandwich kid.
Let's talk about the Derek Chauvin trial. Speaking of ham, he's a pig. You know what I'm saying? You see
Yeah.
the dots of
True.
connecting there? He
Absolutely.
Okay, so the picture of him when they're sentencing him to 1 million years in prison is very funny. His eyes pop out. Wait, we talked about this in the bonus episode a little bit. But let's talk about what it means, I guess. Friend of the show, Alex Vitale, had a very interesting point about it, I think, which is that on some level the system threw him like under the bus because, the police martyred him on some level because it was either that or make a systemic concession, right?
Right. I mean, and like I said the other day, like I do think it's gonna depend on. We're gonna see what happens when it comes to the other cops, because yeah, he is in some ways a sacrificial lamb, but the real question mark is going to be what happens to the officer Tao and the other guy who enabled him and just didn't do anything while he was murdering someone.
Yeah. Does this set a precedent at all where, like, in a cop's head now, are they going to be like, oh, I could become Derek Chauvin, like, while they're pulling their gun out? Because I think the statistic is that this is the 7th cop since 2005 to be convicted for shooting somebody out of 150,000 of these cases or something like that. I think it was 15,000, but still 7 people out of 15,000. Does that
Jack Bauer famously got off.
Yeah.
Live televised trial for Jack Bauer.
I remember that.
What do you think?
Yeah,
There's no way that this is going to go through anyone's mind except to like make a cop more mad when they think about it and they already have their gun drawn.
Maybe. I mean, like I said, I really do think it depends on what happens next. Especially with Kim Potter over in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, the woman who tried to reach for the taser and then I shouldn't laugh. She reached for the taser and then, she thought she had a taser.
Woman
she
who
had a gun.
lived.
Yeah.
You know what I think is kind of ironic about this is that it's probably not going to do what policing says it does, which is scare people with the prospect of going to jail into not behaving in a certain way, which shows you maybe how this whole thing is dumb as fuck.
Smart cookie alert. Yeah, I mean, just politically, just even take a step back before you consider culturally what the impacts of this are. If the question for law enforcement as an institution in our country is like, reduce your own power of your own volition because you're slaughtering the people you're supposed to protect, or just make some gestures so everyone calms down. That's what's going to happen because there is no second party forcing them to lose any institutional strength. Like is no real political push to defund the police right now. There's like 5 squad members, and then the rest you got to fight Joe Manchin to pass the PRO Act, like kind of moderate Democrats.
The problem is that, and this goes back to like the Cold War, right? Because the U.S. tried to be the equal and opposite of everything the Soviet Union did when they considered everything in the USSR like highly centralized. So they're going to be like, we're going to be decentralized with our law enforcement. And so a lot of these laws and things are just there's only so much the federal government can do. I know that the Justice Department now is going to be reviewing the Minneapolis Police Department, which, like every other police department, is full of corruption and waste, fraud, and abuse. We'll see where that goes. But it is sort of a local issue. They could pass some sweeping law or something that would change the status quo of local controlled law enforcement. But it sounds like after the Chauvin verdict, Democratic senators and leaders are less likely to do that. They're like, well, we got what we wanted. Let's.
This is what I'm saying. There's no pressure to make that happen. So why would it?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact jargon I'm reaching for here, but there was like a recorded statement, you know, in the fucking Senate or something, in kind of a back room where somebody was saying something to the fucking Biden administration or something about how, like, yeah, this is actually fine because we've figured out that these convictions don't actually lead to any pressure on any of you to do anything about this. So it's just like a show thing. And
is that mic on? Oh, egg on my face.
I sound dumb because I'm like, oh, it was some guy who said some fucking thing. I can't remember the fucking words, you know, the specific titles and shit from the thing I was reading the other day. But like the idea being at least that probably why this happened is that they figured out, oh, you can just fucking sacrifice one cop and that won't actually pressure like anyone in you know, government to have to do anything. There's no, you know, dotted line there that goes to, oh, now we have to reform our local police department or whatever.
Right. Well, I think this is different from the other times in which cops have gotten convicted, because this was a very high publicity. This was like a global story in the ways that the other ones were not. So I think sort of the best outcome, along with further convictions for cops, this is my opinion, is the chilling effect. That I've said this on the podcast before, but this is something Jim Comey in 2015 was complaining about. He called it the Ferguson effect, that after Michael Brown was murdered, there's all of a sudden law enforcement officials are scared to do their jobs, which was bullshit. But now that actually might be true to some extent. So is this going to change the institution of policing and capital and gentrification and all that stuff? No, it won't on its own. But maybe, possibly, it will provide a little bit of breathing room for particularly Black Americans when interacting with police. Maybe they will be slightly less likely to just kill people with impunity, which is a good thing. But there's still, of course, a lot more to change and do.
Well, why would that be? Doesn't that have the same ring to it as believing in like the power of song to change hearts and minds? Like,
no, I would.
What is the cultural power of this conviction happening?
I think someone going to jail for potentially 40 years is more powerful than We Are the World, personally. But I'm could be dead wrong. So,
well, I mean, maybe
I'm just a silver linings guy.
Maybe because it was like the only thing that everyone on Earth has been talking about for the last year that'll have some kind of like superstructural little trickle down effect or something.
Right. I feel like we can't really. It's hard to know at this point, obviously, but I feel like whatever the outcome is, there's going to be some good baggage and bad baggage. You know what I mean? And what I'm describing could be the positives, but there's also going to be negatives too, and the negatives being an excuse for the political class to not actually move on solutions.
Every political institution has baggage, and you look inside the bag, what's that? It's a large piece of wood coming down back to your house to work
Well, you know who isn't going to get any police reform? Us in New York City. Because I think Andrew Yang is probably winning the mayor's race right now, and he is a dick. We could have...
He might not win. It's early.
Yeah. I mean, so the only candidate that really has a solid defund the police platform is Diane Morales, who has this thing called Community First Responders, which is a pretty good way to sell it, in my opinion. I've been talking to a lot of people about this, and like the thing that where people get stuck on this, I think I'm starting to come around to, is like, they're like, what would you do if there was an axe murderer or whatever? And I think that the important way to tell this whole story is, there would be someone for that. It just wouldn't be a cop, and it's not this thing with this guy with a clipboard. You have to understand the history of the police. We have a racist gang that we started for the purposes of being a racist gang, and then as we started to, like, develop problems in society, like traffic or fucking some guy broke into your house or whatever, we then went, well, we should get that racist gang to do this job, right? And that's the fucking problem. An alternate way of doing this would be to get rid of the racist gang and then have, like, someone else with a government job whose job is to, regulate traffic or protect your fucking house or whatever.
If you want to do Democrat speak about it, maybe the way to sell it is that we just lack specialization to deal with these niche issues we face. Maybe you don't want to send the same axe cop who stops all axe murderers with his terrible iron suit that anyone could recognize from the street, and you want to have a different cop for them than you do for, like, the couple fighting next door and domestic abuse. Like, those shouldn't be the same people.
Yeah.
One is a suit of armor.
So Diane Morales is proposing Community First Responders Department, separate from the NYPD. Pretty cool, right? Problem is, she is no PAC money. She's doing better than I thought she was going to be doing at this point, which is cool. There's an upward trajectory, but she is like the Bernie Sanders in this race. No PAC money, tons of independent small donations, which is good. And also the city has a program where they match, they give you like a campaign finance based on how many small donations you made. So she made this huge, $2.2 million payout from that system by having all these small donations. Still very minuscule compared to what Eric Adams and fucking Yang are bringing in with PAC money. So I don't know.
Yang, who has the entire Steam industrial complex behind him, for every game sold, more money going to his campaign.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen in the past, I remember the last time there was really a contested mayoral election was 2013, in which it was not at all clear until much later than, although the primary was later, it was in September. But Bill de Blasio was not the front runner at all at this stage in the race. It was, between Christine Quinn and Anthony Weiner, and then, the second wave of his sex scandal broke, and that campaign went down in shambles. And because
did you see that movie they did?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Following Anthony Weiner.
I watched most of it. Yeah, Weiner.
Weiner. They have some fantastic footage of Bill de Blasio's parade contribute. Like, they all have different parades for different members of the mayoral race, and then his is just like him and two other guys in this long vacant space during this whole march down the street. It's embarrassing, man.
Yeah, kind of like his presidential campaign, folks.
Folks.
But
that documentary was so funny because it's about Anthony Weiner, and it opened with a quote that was like, "Some men are cursed by their name."
I remember, I think, around the time it came out, comedian Nick Nanny had a great little video he posted where he was at the movie theater and the ticket terror he was talking to when the ticket terror was staring his ticket, and he says, "How long is Weiner?" And he checked and he was like, an hour 45 minutes. That's how long Weiner is. Absolutely brilliant sophomoric humor.
That was pretty funny.
But yeah, so right now I think I have heard some stuff that the polls might be very inaccurate that have Yang on top. I do. It's obviously going to be a very heavy lift for Morales to win. But what a lot of people I know are doing, who are sort of socialists and maybe a little bit to the right of socialists, just to the left of mainstream Democratic politics, are to rank Morales first and Scott Stringer second.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing that's working to her advantage is that they're introducing ranked choice voting for this election, right, which does level the playing field on some level strategically. So there's a Hail Mary here,
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, the fact that the problem is, though, there's also Maya Wiley, who's like an MSNBC talking head, who it's like ranked choice voting can also end up muddling things and splitting the vote, and a lot of people don't understand it. So
I think a lot of people think that she is Diane Morales and they're the same person for some reason. She's
right, that could be a thing too. Yeah. Just
identity-wise, they're sort of sharing the same same section of the race, and same the distinctions between them I think are unclear to people, and certain people are very jazzed up about her for reasons I don't really understand.
Well, if one is on MSNBC and the other one has 2 posters in my neighborhood, it's going to be a close race between the 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, Maya Wiley is just going to be a continuation of the de Blasio regime. She's literally, I think, his lawyer or something like that, or was. But, it would be great, and I've said this before, but it would be great if Maya Wiley won. Or, sorry. Fuck. It would be okay.
Isolating that footage.
We're not editing it.
All right.
There's new endorsement for Anders.
That's going to be
Maya
so
Morales.
embarrassing. They're going to put this all over the Reddits.
It would be great if Morales won, and it would be pretty good if Stringer won. He sucks on a lot of things. Historically, he's sucked, but institutionally, he's back. He's branched out to the left, and I think he understands the necessity of working with the socialist movement. However, it's just pure political shrewdness. It's not. I don't know what's in his heart or anything. But the most important thing is to elect a socialist caucus to the city council, and that's why DSA has endorsed 6 city council candidates. There are even more, sort of left-wing people who are running.
I'm sorry. How long is the caucus?
Don't answer that. It's one of those viral memes.
It's an hour and 45 minutes.
All right, thank you.
This
is such a dad joke.
Yeah. But like I've said before, if you really want to defund the police, and cut their budget in half as Morales wants to do, her ability to do that would be extremely limited if it's just her as mayor. If you actually have a caucus that can put a hold on the budget and make demands, then that's, I think, a much better equation for the left in New York City.
Yeah, you're right. You're smart. Unfortunately, it's more fun for my dumb brain to get caught in the political theater of the mayor race. Did you see?
Did we mention the Andrew Yang gay thing yet?
Let's talk about the Andrew Yang gay thing.
I have the article up from the New York Times.
So funny. Someone in this story called him, they're just he's a Michael Scott from The Office, which is so perfect. He's such an, oblivious guy. He's so positive. I don't think he even understands how, bad this was. The story is what he was speaking at an LGBT, speaking to some organization or something, and just kept going you guys, you're so gay and it's great. I love it. I love your bars.
I'm gay for you. In New York City, the biggest man of all. I
love your bars and I love your parades, and that's all I know about
Who doesn't love a parade? I have the article up, so he's in a Zoom call with this LGBT organization, and this is in the New York Times. They have some quotes from him. "I genuinely do love you and your community," he said, according to a partial recording of the remarks. "You're so human and beautiful. You make New York City special. I have no idea how we ever lose to the Republicans, given that you are all frankly in like leadership roles all over the Democratic Party.
He says like he's Aziz Ansari.
Yeah, you can see him like feeling out the sentence as it comes in. We have like this incredible secret weapon, he added. It's not even secret. It's like we should win everything because we have you all.
What is that? Yeah.
What the fuck is he trying to say?
First of all, like, this made me really glad that I'm never gonna run for any sort of public office, because in all fairness to him, I don't know how to, like, that pandering must be difficult, right? Like, it must suck.
Congressional lead Anders Lee says he was a ham sandwich kid and was nuts for ham sandwiches.
Well, I mean, I suppose that this is like why people say, you should have experience or whatever, is like you can learn from stuff like this. And so people are hammering him about it and saying like, this guy is clearly like is inexperienced, which I think is, yeah, that sucks, because that's also a way they can handle outsiders. But I don't like him, so whatever. I think it's kind of funny. One thing that they pointed out was that, like, it's very off-putting when you come in here and you say you. Like, we are members of your community, and you're proposing to be, the leader of, like, us, like New York or whatever. So this thing where you're just like, you guys are so, what you do over here, it's like kind of antagonistic and antithetical to the idea that, like, we're a community or something.
Well, it's like, but what does that mean that it's you and your community? What does that mean? Imagine if he was like, straight people. I don't know how they win all the time. They have straight people are.
That would be
the president
funny
is straight.
if he's just like it's subtly coming out as gay and married to a woman. He's just like, they're crazy.
Yeah, it's like, what is it like? I don't know
In
what
Nazi
he means
Germany,
by...
they would make you wear an identifying pin, just like I do for Matt.
Yeah.
But it's just a weird implication that, like, oh wow, there's so many gay people who have leadership positions in the Democratic Party. They're all, part of this. They must have the same brain and talents, and
Well, he's an idiot who lacks like a ideological framework, really. So eventually someone's going to ask you a question and there's not going to be an answer for it, because you can't just apply this weird individualistic, like, entrepreneurial, like, everyone's just an expert at the thing they do thing to stuff like this, because then you're just going to back yourself into a corner where you're like, gay people are so good at being experts. What the fuck am I talking about?
Just using like wide, vast generalities. Like, I think we all love giving brain, and that's why I'm giving my brain to New York City to run this place the best we can.
There's also an article, I don't know why this keeps happening with them, I'm kind of fascinated by this. There's an article in the New York Daily News that came out 2 days ago. It says, NYC is overdue for first woman mayor, Andrew Yang. Which, a long time ago, I remember we read some crazy writer's thing about the Democratic primary, like, last year, and she was saying Andrew Yang has, like, a feminine energy. All these people keep saying he's a woman. It's really weird. It might just be, like, racism, like, subtle, like, emasculation because he's Asian or something.
Interesting.
What else did he say? Was he like, the gay community, whether it's the food and wine connoisseurs, the grooming gurus, the design doctors, fashion savants, or culture vultures, you all have a unique contribution to New York City.
Yeah. Queer Eye, there's 5 of you. You all do different things. It's impressive. The one guy is just culture. His thing is just culture.
You're right.
He made a hashtag in one episode. That was what he spent the whole episode doing. Bob built a whole fucking house. Wow, you guys are incredible.
I don't want to be divisive, but one of them is building a whole house. Who's doing all the work here?
He's going to make 5 new departments for New York City. For the fashion savants, the grooming guru department of...
Okay, there's 2.
I mean, it seems like what they wanted to
What
hear...
other 3 departments would there be?
I don't remember.
Well, I said food and wine connoisseur, cultural vulture, fashion savant. But the
Okay.
Someone has a girlfriend.
But it sounded like what they wanted to hear, and I've heard some mixed things about the Stonewall Club. Right, they're sort of Democratic Party stalwarts, but what they wanted to hear about was housing. What they wanted to hear about was homelessness, because a lot of queer people in New York City don't have homes. So that's what he needs to be talking about. And Morales, for all her faults, she did, in all fairness, work for the FIPS, something which was a company that has done a lot of evictions. But she wants to invest in social housing, and that's just good for everybody, especially queer people. So yeah, I feel like if you are in that situation, dear listener, if you're ever in a trying to get an endorsement for someone, just talk about things that apply to them that they probably will need, and don't separate them out and judge them based on an ascriptive characteristic.
I blame Dave Chappelle for bringing him up at the stand, because that's A-level comedy pandering. Like that's textbook stuff. Like he was not considering,
sucks.
I'm talking to an activist group. He's like, I'm here at a gay bar. Tell them you love the gays. Ask who's dating.
Oh yeah, he's learning comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is. That shit sucked so hard, because Dave Chappelle is one of those guys who says like, why does everything got to be political all the time? And then he goes and brings Andrew Yang onto a fucking show with him. It's just selectively political.
It has been kind of funny to see the other candidates just jumping at the chance to criticize him, and often they're right to do so. But there was, I think, at the stand or Stand Up New York, because he has been making the rounds, honestly, at comedy clubs and grinding.
You do not have to do Stand Up New York.
The
You
thing
are
is,
beyond that. Let's do the stand.
But
the thing that's fucked up about this comedy club thing is that it's part of this, it's part of the thing that nobody fucking understands about politicians like that, which is that the small business thing. He's looking at New York and he's like, how do I bring New York back? That's his whole fucking slogan. Right. How do I bring New York back, right? And that is, language that implies things were great before the pandemic happened, which they fucking weren't. A lot of the solutions that people like Diane Ross are bringing into this are like, how about a new fucking New York that works better than it did before, this crisis came and broke a bunch of shit that was fucked up to begin with. But, when people don't fucking see it when he comes in and he says like, he's talking to all these fucking comedy club owners that are beefing with me on Twitter, and the things that they're beefing
so that's
about.
why I don't like him, Jake.
That's big part of the fucking reason.
You're a one issue voter.
Well, I tweeted at him and I was like, you are not listening to workers. You're not listening to the people that work in these fucking restaurants. You're listening to the business owners. Whose side are you actually on? And he didn't fucking respond to me because, you know what? This is good press for him. This stupid fucking thing that sells to people. This small. I'm helping the little guy. The little guy is the guy who works for the restaurant, the stand, not the guy who owns it, right?
Right.
And I think a good expression of this, a good illustration of this, is this thing where everyone was surprised by Democrat Kyrsten Sinema a few months ago or a few weeks ago, or whatever the fuck it was, when she voted no on a minimum wage raise. And it was like this huge thing, and people were like, what the fuck? She used to be like an Occupy person or whatever. But it's like, no, if you pay attention to Democrats that keep yelling from the rooftops, I love small business, I'm a business leader person, this is what they're doing. It's not... You're an idiot if you think Democrats are like a left party. This sucks.
I think if you're like someone who's just getting into politics, Andrew Yang is the perfect person to watch to kind of understand how our structures work, because the faults he's falling into, he's genuinely he wants to help people. He just is not politically programmed yet, and it's happening in front of our eyes. The issues he's falling into are the pitfalls of bourgeois democracy, which is the people who can afford to run for office have had money. And to those people, before COVID-19, New York was a great place. Mm-hmm. And so he's meeting with other like-minded people who also have money, who are giving him their money to promise them that he'll look out for their interests. And there's nobody in the conversation who is a worker, because if you're a worker, you don't have the time to run for office.
Let me explain
Yeah.
it with something that actually was in that article about him like flubbing the gay rights Zoom event thing. Apparently, he's kind of a bro. They say sometimes he comes under fire for being kind of a dude bro and having like. Remember he did like whipped cream beer bongs on when he was running
Right.
for
He
president
did-
or whatever.
yeah.
So apparently he calls his pecs Lex and Rex, right? And me and Anders were talking about this off mic. I think it's to remember which one's the left one and which one's the right one.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Left pecs,
L and R.
right pecs, right?
Yep. Because he'll forget. It happens.
Yeah.
To bros. I had a friend who was a bro, and he would forget left and right a lot.
He was
Well,
dyslexic.
you hold the L out with your right hand, and then the
Right,
way
that
it's
gets-
pointing is left.
Ooh, that's true.
Is he dyslexic? Is that what this is? I don't know. But he should not be theorizing of the world in terms of Lexes and Rexes, but up and down. Your head and your dick, Andrew
Right.
Yang. We are down in
There
the
we
dick
go.
area.
Think with your dick.
Help us out of here.
Right.
All right, this is as far as I can stretch this metaphor.
By the way, I refer to Alex as Lax a lot, so don't get that confused. I'm not talking about Andrew Yang's left peck.
His left tit.
It's Lex. But so Kristen Cinema, yeah, she just gave a speech, or she was doing a conference or Q&A with some Arizona businesses, and they were like whining to her about the PRO Act, and she's like, well, that's what I'm considering. I'm talking to small businesses, and yes, that is what they're saying. Nothing about workers. But I think money is a really important point because, as we said, like Andrew Yang in a way is sort of what looks like the future of Democratic Party politics, which is basically the same as it was before. More emphasis on diversity and sort of tokenizing marginalized identities, and being willing to spend a shitload of money, right? Because that's the real difference, and the thing that sets Biden apart from his predecessors is he's so far not very concerned about the deficit. He spent big on that COVID package. But, and if you look at, and this directly applies to Yang in New York City, Biden had a provision for venues in the COVID relief package. It's supposed to be a shitload of money, and most of these venues have not seen a dime yet because there's all this bureaucracy they have to go through. And all this, they have to register for it, and then you have to implement this stuff. And this is what I'm worried about, kind of with the Keynesian, the new Keynesian Biden, is it might not actually redound to really benefiting people, really much of anyone, because as we've seen, a lot of these like infrastructure projects, especially in the neoliberal era, they have a ton of consultants, a ton of private firms, and it just gets sucked up into that. Just the same class of people who runs these expensive losing campaigns are also, figuring out high-speed rail in places like California and just making sure nothing actually happens except for enriching them and their friends. It doesn't actually end up being a real project that benefits people. And that's what I'm really worried about with Bidenism and Yangism is the government, they spend a lot of money here, but it actually didn't go anywhere. So people are going to think, well, we're just wasting money. 'Cause they're
Uphold
not seeing
Andrew
the tangible
Yang
benefits.
thought.
Right, it's going to swing
It's
back in
just
the other
having
direction.
abs.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably a good transition into the PRO Act, right? Which is what we wanted to talk about today, because I'm very confused by the potential success of the PRO Act within Biden's America, because it seems counterintuitive to me. It seems like something that would have been crushed till this point. So when I'm reading about the PRO Act, I'm kind of going like, how is this happening? How did they get Joe Manchin to vote for this? Is everything I know wrong? Are the Democrats actually a labor party? Or, when's the other shoe going to drop? So please help me, Anders, understand what the future
my understanding
of
of
the PRO Act is.
specifically why you can get, so there are some Democrat holdouts on the PRO Act, which has 40 something co-signers already.
47.
47, and the DSA
Senate.
is actively organizing to make calls and flip the last few that would make a big difference. Like Joe Manchin was flipped this week. But the difference between the PRO Act and, let's say, like just pushing directly for a Green New Deal last year or earlier on is the PRO Act is directly about ending right for work and empowering unions. And politically, in modern history, the Democrats have this like shaky alliance with labor, where 50 years ago it was guaranteed if you're a Democrat because of the New Deal or whatever, you have labor votes on lock. The Republicans have business votes unlocked, and now that line is blurred. But because we're fighting tooth and nail for every House seat for the upcoming midterm elections, the Democrats want to ensure they're going to get these labor votes in time for 2022. So the PRO Act is not as politically bombastic for the specific audience they're courting. And now if they want to like ensure those votes, like if Joe Manchin wants to stay in office, he has to show that he's the union man, even if the rest of his voting record might not necessarily agree with that.
Right. Yeah, West Virginia is a union state. I don't know if he's up for re-election. I don't think until 24, but still, that's a big part of his constituency is union members. And I've literally talked to people who are like, well, I know Joe Manchin will sign on to that. He's a union man. So he flipped eventually. But I think what separates this from the Green New Deal and Medicare for All is that it has vast union support. I mean, why would a union be against it, right?
Right.
And we are still at a point where I wouldn't really call the Democrats a labor party, but they are the closest thing to one that the U.S. has. And institutionally, that's really what labor, the labor bureaucracy, their main function is a turnout institution for the Democratic Party. And so they understand that relationship. And this week, I think a really important step was there were some labor leaders who actually told Mark Kelly in Arizona, who is a holdout right now for co-sponsoring the PRO Act, that if he doesn't sign on, they're not going to support his reelection, which is coming up in 2022.
Okay, so this is just like an advantageous position that labor is kind of in right now, because like what I'm reading about is a lot of shit like that where the Democrats are aware that they've like gained a majority by a razor thin margin, and now you're actually in a good position if you are anyone who can threaten to take away that margin, and there's enough of shit like this going on, right? Enough leverage. Am I getting that right?
Right. Well, yeah. So the unions have always been supportive of labor law reform. In 2008, Obama was elected in large part by unions because he supported card check, which was a bill that would just make it so any workplace, you go around with a card, you get enough employees to sign it, you got a union. Boom. That would have been a huge boon to the labor movement. But now the PRO Act is actually even better. It's it's just going to outright repeal right to work and a lot of this other shit, just, end captive audience meetings. And Biden supports it. And there's actually, it's actually passed the House already. So I think for Democrats, there's just for the party, politicians, it's just a more crucial position that you have to take because there is backing from this turnout machine that's telling them you got to sign on to this. I don't know if it's actually going to pass. I mean, I think there is a good chance that we will get the astronaut, Mark Kelly, maybe his astronaut union. I looked it up. There is actually an astronaut union. Maybe
that
we
is
can,
badass.
Of course there is.
Yeah, maybe we can get them to have him sign on.
Easiest industry to unionize in the world. Are you kidding me? How many? There's like 8 astronauts.
But
I like
think
the idea of like a fat astronaut like sitting around just going like, nah, I'm Union, not going up today.
we're not taking off till
Just the
8.
idea of getting like scabs to go to the moon. It's so reckless. Your $10 million spaceship's gonna explode because you didn't want to give them healthcare or whatever.
But the point is though, I think because of this pressure, they will sign on. But whether or not it's actually going to pass, I think is an open question, because in order to pass, you need to do something about the filibuster. There's no way this is getting 60 votes. So the whether or not Sinema and Manchin sign on to a filibuster reform is hard to say. I think it is possible. The best case scenario is that Kamala Harris, who is the president pro tempore of the Senate, decides the Senate rules, has every authority to just end the filibuster or have it not apply to this bill, or they could pass it through reconciliation. There are a bunch of options they have to pass this, but the question is, number one, are they going to get these remaining 3 Democratic senators to sign on? And number two, are they going to get them to actually retain that position if it means overriding the filibuster? So that's the question right now. And people are comparing this to, Medicare for All, the Green New Deal, and, why are you playing hardball on this but not those? And it's, number one, a different issue. It has already passed the House. Neither of those things have passed the House. But also, more importantly, it has union support. It's literally about unions. So even if it does not succeed, which there's probably more likelihood that it won't, building those bonds between the socialist movement and labor unions is crucial. It's the only way we're ever going to be able to pass anything like Medicare for All or the Green New Deal, is having that actual base of support that threatens the Democratic Party, because a couple of votes in Congress, that's not really leverage. A whole labor movement that's threatening to withhold, turnout, their turnout apparatus, or is threatening, strikes, if we could actually get to that point, that's actual leverage.
That's a really good point, because if, force the vote had happened and then, somehow we rammed Medicare for All through, but not had any weird foundation to keep it from getting destroyed immediately, that would do... Doesn't that make that
you
kind
would
of
need
a
any amount of political leverage at some point to maintain any of this stuff.
Right, and that's what we need to build with the labor movement, and a big part of that is expanding the labor movement and making it easier to form and join unions, which is, I think, a top priority right now.
Bernie Sanders is going to have to get his most persuasive cardboard tweet cutouts presentation to date ready for this. He's going to have to go to the Senate floor and have all of the DSA memes.
Yeah.
And he can just, if Bernie Sanders steals from comedians, I think they're by and large okay with that.
I see where you're going with this.
He's like a family friend.
Why do you bring
It'd
up
be all right for me.
stealing from comedians? Because Elon Musk did that? Is that why you're saying that?
Well, yeah, and because he always has those big cutouts where he owns people on the Senate floor with large cutouts of their tweets, especially former President Donald Trump, President of the United States. But Elon Musk has been stealing tweets, and he does not have our permission, and that's a big difference.
Yeah, he stole a tweet from Patty Mo from What a Time to Be Alive, the other day. It was crazy.
What was the tweet?
It was the fucking Vince McMahon thing, and it was it was like when you go to a restaurant and there's bread in a little basket, and then you open the basket and it looks good, and then the one where his eyes are bugging out is a little pat of butter.
A little pat of butter. It's a lot more effective when you look at the meme, and there's
Yeah, but that comic Giancarlo, you know that guy? I forgot his...
not Esposito.
Giancarlo.
Giancarlo Esposito, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
What's his face?
Cerezi.
There you
John
go.
Marco Cerezi.
He said, I think so, yeah. I'm trying to
His name
credit
is
him
Tuco?
with a good take. Sangre. He said sangre por sangre, and I thought it was a really good take about this. No, he said, don't you think this reflects Elon Musk's business practices, that he's just taking things and won't give credit to people? Pretty good point. Pretty good own, I think.
It is a tough situation because when the richest man in the world steals your tweet, there's not a court in this fair country that will back you up on that shit. He can have you killed over that tweet. What are you going to do about it? He's literally the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
And you're Gus Fring. What are you going to do about it?
What if he stole the idea for Breaking Bad and
That
he
would
just
be
made his own Breaking
so
Bad?
funny if he just was like, I got an idea. It's about a chemistry teacher. Like everyone knew, or like that is already a very famous thing.
You know, it would actually be beautiful if he did like a solo version of Citizen Kane and pawned it off as his own idea.
I could see that. Yeah, I mean, he could do anything you want, but you know what he would do is he would, and I'm surprised he hasn't actually done this, which is like worm his way into an executive producer role on Rick and Morty. So he literally has seized the means of Rick and Morty. He can control the most epic Mr. Poopy Butthole takes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's his favorite. I mean, I just feel like rich people really have a lack of imagination. They can do anything they want. Why are you stealing butterbeans?
They love to executive produce stuff. Just put their name on it for no fucking reason, and then get like a Grammy or an Emmy or whatever.
I mean, the fact that you have to make that much money is like just shows how you have a deep insecurity. You know, there's no mentally healthy person who has that much money. It's
right.
Yeah,
and if you believed in yourself, you would just be producing more Rick and Mortys, so we can consume them faster and talk about them on our podcasts.
Yeah.
Have I ever showed you guys Richard Branson's books?
No.
He's written several books, and they're all like plays on the Virgin. Like one, and they're all like he is on the front and he's laughing. And they're called like a Virgin, The Virgin Way. What else is there? Finding My Virginity. Screw It, Let's Do It.
That one's a stretch. I'm not as into that one.
Well, was that when he decided to stop being a virgin?
I guess so. And then he has another book called Losing My Virginity.
What the fuck?
He still is in full ownership of Virgin. That is, don't be confused by the book title.
And Screw Business as Usual is another one of his.
Have you read any of these books, Anders?
Oh God.
What is there to read about that covers 8 books if you're Richard Branson? Like, how much of it is like biographical and how much is just like his thoughts and musings on the airline world?
I think it's probably thoughts and musings, I would imagine. Well, it's probably both. I mean, there's so much material there. You know what I mean? Suffice to say, it's not surprising to me that Elon Musk is doing this because he wants to be liked and is frustrated at the fact that he's not.
He is liked, though.
It is really kind of comforting sometimes to know that money does not make people happy, and that you can ruin a rich person's day with the website Twitter, because what people actually want is to be liked, you know?
Right. Which
That's
is
true.
impossible.
We'll always
to
have
be
that.
liked by everyone. Literally, no one can do it.
It's so funny.
I defy anyone to name me someone who is universally beloved.
Jesus Christ, the
No,
richest
false.
man of all time, in rich in the other sense.
Yeah, he's at the Lord's table of plenty, sure. But do Romans like him? Does Pontius Pilate upon his mighty throne?
Jesus, if he was alive today, would have Twitter, and he would be insane on it. He would be so mad all the time. He'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
And then he'd always have those apostles next to him that's like, not today, Jesus. Get off there. Get off that hell site. Give me your phone.
Not today.
Not today, Jesus. That's a cool phrase. Like, not today, Satan.
Yeah, it doesn't
what you
organically
did.
come up very often. I wish it would.
Well, before we leave the Pro Act, let's talk a little bit about this other thing that you sent us, Anders. I read that article about the kind of tenuous relationship between green nonprofits and stuff like that and labor. Interesting. I didn't realize that was a thing. Also, I'm kind of confused by the idea of organizing in nonprofits because you don't make something. So how does that work?
Yeah, well, there's like as is often described, a nonprofit industrial complex. Because, nonprofit basically just means whatever little money is literally the surplus just goes back into the company, so that could just be into the salaries,
Yeah. It's bullshit.
Yeah, and there's a professional class of, a professional managerial class.
We're all
fraud is a
trying
term
to
that
avoid
is.
saying that phrase, but it
Yeah.
is a thing.
Right. Yeah, there's especially. I mean, I see it up close every day here in D.C. There's thousands, maybe million people who work in this field, and it's just creates layer and layer of bureaucracy, and is often undemocratic and disconnected from the people it's trying to help in many cases. And that, especially with the environmental movement, that creates a level of resentment from working class people. And so this is why I think that the slogan of the Pro Act campaign from DSA is it's being led by eco-socialists. And the term is workers and the world unite,
Oh,
which I think is a great
Oh.
maxim.
Now that's fun.
Yeah. And people should study the work of Tony Mizaki, who was a chemical worker union organizer, who really believed in sort of proto versions of the Green New Deal, but from like a much more explicitly socialist perspective. And I really do believe that if we are going to achieve something like that, have an industrial policy that is actually focused on mitigating climate change, then that movement has got to come from the working class, and it's not going to come from this industrial complex. Not to say that, obviously people doing research about these sorts of things and the policy wonks, that's all great. We need that. It's crucial. But the actual political praxis to put these plans in action has to come from the grassroots.
With the grassroots, very clever. Well, how do the unionized astronauts feel about this since they are away from the planet? Are they mad that the planet is now our friend?
Right, it's in their class
usually
interest
what they
to...
think. Right, Andrews was right about class interest, but usually their comment on everything is they get up there and they go, "It's all one big blue orb." And they don't really expound on that at all. They're like, "Look at it, all the little people there, they're on the orb."
You know what they say?
Well,
Especially if they're in the union, they go up there and they say, "Wait, it's always been it's all class struggle, always has been."
Always,
And it always
has
has
been.
been.
And then they go,
And then another astronaut murders them. That's something that happens often.
and then he goes, "I'm going on space break." And then he goes on break.
Yes. Yes.
Idiot. Well, that's really interesting. Yeah, I thought I'll link to that article. I thought it was very interesting how I was talking about how unionization in that industry sort of helps to uncorrupt the fucking industry too, because what we know about NGOs and stuff. Go watch the Susan G. Komen documentary. It'll blow your mind. They're not allowed to even use the same shade of pink anymore because they stole it from somebody. All right.
So from Patty Monahan.
Yeah, they
One
stole
of his
it.
hilarious tweets.
All right. Well, Anything else we want to get to before we get out of here? I think this is a good one. This is a good classic.
Yeah.
Classic episode.
A return to form.
The boys.
Just the boys.
There is something I forgot to bring up on the bonus episode that somebody on Discord pointed out. Primordial Stew on Discord pointed out that
Shout out.
yeah, Charles Murray, who we talk quite a bit about, as well as Andrew Sullivan on the bonus episode about their race science, pseudoscience. I forgot to mention and go down totally the Murray rabbit hole. He worked with the CIA during Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And his job was to determine how to put populations under political control, which he found the most effective way to do that was by destroying their crops and starving them.
He sounds like a really cool guy.
Yeah. Again, someone who is a respected intellectual here in Washington. People go to him still for advice and things.
He just seems like he generally seems like you go to him when you know what you want, and then he gives you a really obvious answer. Like, how do we kill Vietnamese people? By burning all their stuff down and murdering them.
Yeah. Fuck them up. Anyway, I'm an expert at business and brain stuff, which is really all you're asking for. Yeah. Just cut off their supply to brain, and then they'll have to do whatever you want.
Right.
And that's what Andrew Yang is addressing, this mayoral campaign.
Other quick thing, we this week I want to make sure we mention the passing of. I was texting my dad about this earlier because I don't know who else to bestow this title on. Probably the greatest Norwegian American, Walter Mondale, and I don't even like Walter Mondale that much, but that's just, I guess
it's a low bar, folks.
Yeah. I asked my mom, and she was like, Judy Garland? Bob Dylan? She's just listing people from Minnesota.
The bar is on the floor.
Yeah.
Prince?
Well, yeah, he may be Norwegian a little bit. It's hard to say. I think it's either... It might be Mondale, but it also might be Charles Schultz from my hometown of St. Paul.
Okay.
Peanuts guy. Or Boomer Esiason.
Boomer Esiason?
Yeah.
That's a human name?
Yeah, he was nicknamed Boomer because he would, in the womb, he would kick. So they're like, "Ooh, that's a boomer."
Like, okay, Boomer, shut the fuck up, you old man.
He was nicknamed Boomer for his terrible opinions.
I think he might have some terrible, but yeah, I did see him once. He was a quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, who, like Walter Mondale, lost badly on a national stage in the 80s. That's kind of what being a Norwegian American is all about, is just disappointing everyone on a national level in the Reagan era. But so we might do a bonus episode about Walter Mondale.
It's the fabled bonus poddam episode about Walter Mondale. The
Stop asking already. It's coming.
It's coming, folks.
6-part series on Walter Mondale.
We're working as hard as we can.
Walter
Mondale.
But specifically, I learned recently he was likely involved in purging communists from the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, which is what they call it's what they call the Democrats in Minnesota. So we might do an episode about that. And one thing I will say, which is kind of embodies, the best of the Democratic Party, is we complain about the threshold for the filibuster being to override the filibuster being 60 votes. It used to be 67. But thanks to Walter Mondale, we brought it down to 60. A great achievement.
Holy
maybe his
shit.
Best.
Get up out of your car right now and just go fucking crazy for that fact about the filibuster.
True Norwegian excellence. Live. live on podcast.
All right.
So those are your Mondale facts for this episode. Tune in to our Patreon if you haven't already for more about him and about Charles Murray.
That's
and
just to wet
Andrew
your
Sullivan.
whistle. That's
Yeah.
just to get the hunger started for more.
Let's
These
hawk.
Mondale facts.
Let's hawk the Patreon. We haven't done that in a while. We just did an episode about race science. It's pretty fucked up. You should listen to it. Did you just start listening to this podcast? Do you know what a Patreon is? Did you know that you can sign up for ours and then we do bonus episodes every week? And they're usually as good or better than the regular one. Sometimes they're better and we're bad at our jobs.
Sometimes they're worse.
Sometimes they're worse, but it's similar. If you like the show and you want to listen to more of us, go to patreon.com/poddamnamerica. And if you want a shirt or a bandana or something cool like that, or stickers and shit, we have a merch store at poddamnamerica.bigcartelcom, which is in all our notes. And I guess you should subscribe, like the iTunes stuff. Do people still do that? Rate, review, and subscribe? Do that.
You
I
should
think
leave
so.
us a good review to counteract the many enemies that we have.
Yeah,
Who threaten our freedom.
and harass our enemies, I guess. Do that.
Pick up the sword.
Including one review from one very negative review from a figure in popular media now who has said that he believes that fat children are legally adults, should be treated as adults.
Did he review our podcast?
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't
that's
know.
so funny.
See, I don't know if he meant to do it anonymously, but it just says Tim J. Dillon.
Yeah.
And
Talk
he's-
about glass houses coming from that guy.
Dude, that
Exactly.
guy, I think he might have been him because he is, like, mad at me. Like, I just made a point to start calling him a right-wing pundit online recently, and I think he's seeing it because he's making these angry tweets that are like, I say you shouldn't be able to get shot by the cops, and that makes you right-wing, or whatever. And it's like, who is he talking to but
Right.
me? It has to be me, right? Which is weird because he's blocked
Right.
me, but you know how Twitter works.
And supposedly all the people who are mad at him for saying idiotic things work for big corporations that they don't criticize.
Yeah.
Which I guess I didn't know that. We were getting corporate money, but okay, we'll take it.
I know you guys are comics and you are fond of his quips and things, and I do think he used to be a very funny comedian, but I fucking hate that guy. I went to Texas and I just talked to, like, I talked to a cousin of mine who was like, this is unrelated. These people don't know me. She was like, a friend of mine is losing his mind listening to this podcast. How do I, like, what should I do about it? I was like, which one? She's like, Tim Dillon, do you know him? This is fucking people's shit up like right-wing talk radio in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. He's an example of someone who, with great power comes great responsibility. If you have the power of charisma and zaniness, it can be used for evil, especially if you think you're somehow ideologically neutral, which is the most annoying thing about it. Is he's just like, people with ideology make bad decisions.
Well,
Like,
it's
what-
just like fucking Dave Chappelle, who's like, why is everything got to be political all the time?
Yeah.
Anyway, here's Andrew Yang. It's like that. Politics does not start and stop when you decide to engage in it. It is always happening. So if you're just passive about it a bunch of the time, that's probably when you're doing all the shit that people are calling you fucking racist for, because you're saying, oh, I get to opt out every once, just fucking 5-10 hours a day or whatever, and then just do things, how I see fit or whatever, and then
Right. And like, oh, I simultaneously don't care about this stuff and know more than you about it. Like, that's another really obnoxious thing. I know why you have the opinions you have, but I also don't care about those opinions. It's just...
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. It's fucking... It's like solipsistic or something. I don't know if I'm using that word right, but like the stand-up really fucks up people's brains because it makes people think that they can sit down and philosophize just like semantically their way out of anything. Then, therefore, you don't need to read about anything and like understand anything on an abstract or like dialectical level or whatever, because you could just sit here and just come up with fucking takes and just frame your enemy or whatever. But if you do that long enough and then you would drift into the capitalist system and you're charismatic, you will just end up becoming a reactionary because the entire thing you're churning out is a guy to get mad at that you fucking made up that is very attractive to everyone listening to you who, you know, it's fun to get fucking mad at a scapegoat instead of the thing, the main thing, the problem, you know?
Yeah.
The fucking upward.
Right. Get mad at the capitalist class. Get mad at their servants, even their astronaut servants, Mark Kelly, Kristen Sinema, Mark Warner. Get mad, get even. Sign up at proact.dsausa.org.
That's right. We started the podcast by telling you to sit down, and now you stand up. Stand up.
Yeah.
Stand up. This has been Poddamn America. Let's do plugs and get the fuck out of here. Anybody got anything?
Like I just said, pro-act.dsausa.org. Also, I was about to volunteer or plug volunteering for city council candidates, which you should also do. You can do both, folks. Go to NYC, socialists.nyc, and you'll find ways to donate and volunteer for them. And at Andersley here on Twitter, Dursley on Instagram. Check out our Twitch. Saturday night we're going to be doing something fun. Twitch.tv/poddamnamerica.
Alex, you got anything?
I have an event for the first time in a very long time. We have put together a paid protest comedy show for
What? I didn't know about this.
the DSA. That's right. We are fundraising for New York's Defund the Police campaign. And the next show, this is the first one we've had in 13 months. So kind of exciting stuff here, folks. That's going to be on May 2nd. A lot of good comics on it. Jake is on it.
Uh-oh, that's my
Jake?
plug.
In theory, you love Jake. Show up at this show and raise money for this, huh? And I'm going to be helping host it, and that's on May 2nd. I'll put a link in the episode description. Okay? All right.
Great.
All right.
I'm on Twitter at Patak Jokes.
If you are one of the people that listens to this show for Anders and Alex but hates me, watch me do stand-up. Maybe I'll change your mind. Yeah, that's my plug. My plug is I'm on that show and my other show's Why You Mad. And that's it. I think that's all I got. Stand up soon. Hold on. It's finished.
Nice.
It's finished.